Yo, it's your boy Keith right here, and I'm back in the mix. And I've been looking around to kind of see what content I wanted to do for the Raiders, and this is like I've done other things that's not Raider related, but it's still football. And today I kind of want to make a video that it's football related, but it's also Raider related and but it's not about the players on the team. It's just an overall topic that will give people good information and just like a understanding of where we are at the moment. And as you know, the Raiders not really the best team at the moment, and it's really looking bad for us, and specifically at quarterback, at our O line is not the best. I think on offense, those are the main issues: quarterback and line. And I think Gino he has the ability to do some great things like we've seen in the first game, but I'm also just at this point where I'm just tired of the Raiders trying to bargain their way into a franchise quarterback and why it's important, right? And I've seen a graphic about the Cleveland Browns, right? And it's funny just looking at this graphic because the Browns are paying 8 quarterbacks at this time to find their franchise guy, and I think the Raiders are doing the minimal to find theirs, and it's really starting to irk my nerves because, as we all understand, the quarterback is the most important position in football. Um, I'm definitely a person who think like you shouldn't overpay for a player that isn't worth it, right? And I think we are kind of seeing that we may have overpaid for Geno Smith. And that's one of the things that really irks my nerves when you overpay for a quarterback. Other players, I think it's okay to overpay for other players because it's never really over the quarterback line, you know? Um, Defensive ends, they get paid a lot of money. But outside of that, the other players aren't really over, you know what I'm saying? You could overpay them, but it will never be the same amount as a quarterback, right? So it don't really affect your team like how overpaying a quarterback could be. Like if we looking at it right now, we got Geno at 40 million a year, right? And some people may say that's the right price. Some people may say it was what the market value was and things like that. And I think like if that's the case, sometimes you got to pass on some of these big names and go for the smaller guy, but not the smaller guy, but the rookie. I think more teams need to invest into just going the rookie route. Overpaying for some of these quarterbacks when your team is not really filled up and really developed is a waste of your time, right? Um, like you should only be going for these free agent quarterbacks, these throwaway quarterbacks, right? If your team is completely built, right? So let's just say this, right? We, you look at the San Francisco 49ers, right? They were able to get Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is able to win games for them. And it's not because Mac Jones is is this great quarterback, right? He's in the NFL, so I don't want to also dampen that, he's probably a good quarterback in that regard that he made it to the NFL, but if we're going NFL standard, he's probably a second string quarterback. And that's where they got him at, right? Um, and that's probably where he is on the scale of QBs, but he just so happened went to a team that has a lot more around him to be successful. The 49ers got a system that Mac Jones could thrive in. You look at Daniel Jones with the Colts. Daniel Jones is not a superstar at any um like you wouldn't look at Daniel Jones and be like, this is a superstar quarterback. No, he's probably uh I wouldn't even say top 20, like 25-ish quarterback where it's like he can make some throws. He got good. He's pretty mobile, so he can run, but you're not gonna throw the game on his back to win the game. And as you see, like the way the coach is putting him in position, he's able to, he has to, he lean on the team to be successful. And so basically, let's bring it back to the Raiders. The reason why Geno Smith is not um, a successful QB with the Raiders is because we have so many different things working against us. So if the Raiders was able to keep some of the defensive players that they let go last year, and was able to keep that unit together and then add Geno Smith on top of that, I guarantee you the team would look a lot more cohesive and it would look a lot better having Geno there. But since they broke down the defense to get Geno, it really hampered all the things that they kind of built over the past, 3, 4 years. And so, yeah, you really have to have a great system for certain types of quarterbacks. If you're not a top five to maybe like top eight QB, you're going to have to really start to build like a strong system around them for them to be successful. And right now, the Raiders just not that team. And so we just basically wasted a lot of money on Geno Smith, and it probably won't get better until we, fill out the roster a little more. And some people saying that maybe the Raiders may have to trade a Max Crosby or we may have to find a way to get more bang for our buck in the draft. Somehow we have to be able to accumulate more talent to actually fill out this roster. Like right now, if we're next year, for instance, for this team to turn around with Geno Smith, we have to hit the draft and all those picks got to be starters, right? And then you got to hit in free agency and you got to hope that we're able to pick up some pieces through the free agency and through the draft, and they all got to hit. And that's not something that um, you really could say happens very often. It's very it's very it don't happen that often. And I think like the Raiders do have some game changers with Brock Bowers who's also injured at this moment. And then you got Ashton Genty who becoming a star, and then you got Max Crosby. These are our most valuable pieces. I would say JPJ, but He do got a little bit of injury issues, but these are four cornerstones on the team, and you got to get more players that's maybe not as good as them, but just that could complement what they bring to this team. And we just don't have all these things put together. And so yeah, like I was saying, the Browns, they got eight different quarterbacks on their payroll. And it's something that I think like this is what happens when you try to bargain shop your way into a quarterback. Um, you definitely have, I think like this. If you're a team and you're struggling to get a quarterback, you should draft a quarterback every year until you hit. It don't have to always be a first round, but if you have the opportunity to get a quarterback, you get the quarterback. And I think that's something that the Raiders kind of lacked. Um, Quarterback has been a position that we've needed. Like with the need of having a quarterback, we should have been drafting QBs third round. Third round and up. Like we shouldn't have been trying to get fifth round quarterbacks and trying to make them into something. No, we need third, second round quarterbacks, some that actually have some type of talent. And it's been times where we passed up on the opportunity to get certain quarterbacks. Like we had a chance to get Jaden Daniels, or at least we were in the talks of doing that. And I ain't gonna lie. Jaden Daniels, he's a great piece. It would have been great to have Jaden Daniels. We probably wouldn't have had Brock Bowers. We probably wouldn't have had JPJ. But like I said, the quarterback is the most important position to have. So when you looking at it like that, and we somehow value quarterbacks because we went out and bought Geno. So we need to actually act like we want to win some games. And if we're gonna, go waste 40 million on a quarterback, we should probably put that energy into the draft. And I get it. We've had a lot of moving pieces, so it kind of make it hard to like actually build a cohesive strategy to put these pieces together, right? But it's still not an excuse for the overall organization. And this is why it's also important that your owner knows ball. Um, the reason why the Raiders was so successful in the 70s and the 80s was because Al Davis knew ball. And so, yeah, Mark Davis, he got the aces, so I guess he's excited that his team is winning. Um, he better focus. He better start focusing because he may still get the money that he may still collect the money, but you're going to lose fans eventually because um these Raiders fans, they only getting older. It ain't like they converting new fans. So the fans will eventually age out, and you just gonna be stuck with, people like my age who were able to see some type of, something come out of it, but it's not gonna be any appeal outside of the colors to really get people to be like, oh yeah, I want to be a fan. This is why you see Kansas City, they got a lot of new fans. I would say the Chargers, they got a lot of new fans. They might not be, as loyal as Raiders fans, but people see Harbaugh, they see Herbert, it makes them want to go buy a ticket, right? So the Raiders gonna have to start winning games to actually build a stronger foundation for the fan base. Um, and yeah, it's really sad to see see the Raiders in this type of position when we were, at one point the Raiders was one of the most winningest teams in NFL history. Like they had the highest rate winning percentage. When you look at John Madden's winning percentage, he was at one point the most winningest coach in the league as far as winning percentage. So it just make you think like, yo, I would love for Mark Davis to actually learn the sport and yeah, get your bread. Like I don't want to hate on him getting bread because the Raiders was broke, just a decade ago, 12 years ago. Um, but yeah, we have to really focus on getting a franchise quarterback and they need to be for the next few years, they need to be focused on getting a quarterback, getting a high draft pick quarterback, third, second, first round. No more lollygagging trying to get a fourth round quarterback, a fifth round quarterback, sixth round quarterback. No, you have to really put the time into finding a QB who has certain attributes. And I think the quarterback, of today is a quarterback who's mobile and who has a big arm, but can also be accurate. And you can find those. Like that's basically what college football is at this point. And you got other teams who who got better rosters and somehow end up getting some of these younger quarterbacks. They might have one down year, but they end up coming back with some of these quarterbacks. Like the year when Penix, JJ McCarthy, and all those QBs was coming in, like it shouldn't have been no way that the Raiders didn't get a quarterback that year. But it just shows how much, you know, how competent our staff is. And they've been putting band-aids over, a problem that we really have to take care of. Um, you get your franchise quarterback, I'm telling you, it's gonna help a lot of the problems that we have. Like Kansas City. And I get, Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent. Some of these quarterbacks I'm talking about are generational talents, right? Um, but Pat, he puts a band-aid over KC's roster. Um, Josh Allen, he puts a band-aid over the Bills roster so they can now do other things to kind of be proficient. Like we have to really focus on getting our quarterback, getting the franchise quarterback right. Like we haven't had a franchise quarterback since Derek Carr, and a lot of people call him mediocre, this, that, and the third. But let's be honest, when Derek Carr was on the team, most of his teams averaged like 24 to like 28 points a game. Like that's not bad. And the only reason why the Raiders was losing games was because the defenses Derek Carr had were historically terrible teams. Um, and so like we've had this issue of not being able to construct good enough rosters uh to win. And it seems like every year, every year we have two or three games, we going against a backup quarterback and somehow we lose. We'll go against teams that have, a bunch of like majority, like superstar starters gone, and then we lose the game. Like this happens every year, and it don't make sense. And all I can say is we just don't have enough talent to get things done. And partially, a lot of that is the quarterback. Like we've had Devontae Adams on the team, who was at the time, I would say he was still arguably a top 10, top five wide receiver. He was a piece. We've had Darren Waller on the team. Um, at the time, he was a top five tight end. You had you had Josh Jacobs, who's been a top 10 running back. You've had you just had a bunch of pieces or players that have been good. You had Khalil Mack, who was a top five player. You have Max Crosby. He's a top five player at his position. Like understand like the Raiders have had talent, but it's like, if we're going from, you're only as good as your weakest link. And I think like a lot of our rosters have been top heavy and we expect um something good to come out of it. And without you having the franchise guy, it makes it that much harder to make it work. So, man, I'm telling you, the Raiders gonna have to over these next few years really focus on getting a franchise guy and don't make your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round pick guy the franchise guy. Like I love Aiden O'Connell, but no. Cam Miller, people like, put him in it. No, actually invest in a third, second, first round quarterback. Like, and we've had like you see like the Seahawks, they went and got Jalen Monroe in the second round. Like some of these players, some of these teams, they understand how important it is to have a franchise quarterback, and even the developmental ones, they getting them. They going and going. They going and going. I'm getting so frustrated, but they go out and go get them. So we have to start recalibrating and do the same thing. Let's not get no more retreads. Let's stop. I don't care if Darnold is available. I don't care if Daniel Jones next year is available. None of these don't bite on none of them. Go draft you something. Go actually get you a franchise guy. I would even say let Geno Smith go after this because he has the ability, but he also is prone to making too many mistakes. We might if we seen knew and how this was going to plot out, we'd have been better off getting Jameis Winston. At this point, Geno and Jameis are literally the same people. They got extreme arm talent. They both could run around. They're a little mobile, but they make a lot of mistakes. And at this point, he damn near averaging 3 interceptions a game. And we won't be able to win no games with him averaging that many interceptions. So we have to figure that out. And I would say once we figure out our franchise quarterback, they probably should be still looking for more quarterbacks. Like, don't ever put yourself in this position that your quarterbacks you don't have a second person that you're working on to get in there. Like, if you look at Green Bay Packers in the past, like 20 years, they've only had basically three franchise quarterbacks, like three starting quarterbacks. And I get it, Favre might have got injured and they had a backup in there. I'm not counting that. It went from Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers to the guy they got now. I forgot his name, but you see how the line and the chain of command is just like swiftly going to the next guy, and they sit their young quarterbacks for a couple of years so they able to develop. So even when we get our franchise guy, right, because it's eventually gonna come, Start thinking about drafting once you get your franchise guy for like 5, 6 years. Maybe start drafting quarterbacks again, so you don't ever have to look back and be like, "Damn, we ain't got no quarterback." Like, cause we're in hell. Like at first we was in purgatory with Derek Carr. We're officially in hell. We're in quarterback hell. And it doesn't feel right. Like, you know, it felt like, we were losing games, but it was times where it's like, oh, we could possibly win this game. You still had that vibe, but like, oh, we could possibly win. But now I'm looking at a lot of these teams, and I'm like, I don't even think we can win that game. So it's a bad feeling. You never want that feeling when you're a fan of a team. And most of us that do Raiders content, we're not just doing this um because we're looking for the clout. We're actually Raiders fans, right? But eventually, if Mark Davis don't figure this out, we will age out, and who will we have left? If the team's not winning, we need the Raiders to start winning so we can actually, you know what I'm saying? So it can start paying off in more fans, a stronger fan base. Like I seen a video of the Raiders at the Coliseum, and we might have we might have not sold out all the tickets, but you knew when you went in there, right? That crowd was gonna be loud. They were gonna root for their team. Like it was a certain excitement. Like I seen a game where DC, he still had Darren McFadden, and he had James Jones, he had Marcel Reese, and the Coliseum was ecstatic. Like it was literally erupting. Like we don't have those type of games no more, and it's very sad to see that. Um, we're getting money, but at what cost? You're losing your fan base. Um, so yeah, that's something to think about, man. The Raiders need to really focus on franchise QBs, on QBs in general, but stop trying to cherry pick, get one in the late rounds and say we good. Like, no, we don't have the luxury to do that. If it's a quarterback that that's getting talked about in college football right now, we should be honing in on getting that dude. We should be out of every draft, we should be getting the first to like fourth best quarterback in the draft every year until they figure it out. And am I saying if we get one that's a high draft pick, give up on them? No. You get a quarterback, you have them for like 4 years, right? So, you give them some time. You might not give them the full four, give them three, give them two. I would say give them 2 to 3 seasons to figure it out. And then once you see that he ain't figured it out, you got another one that you just drafted that's kind of high. Bam, you put him in. Like, don't play no more with these quarterbacks. And stop getting people retreads. Stop getting people um garbage and thinking we gonna make it happen. Like we're not a team that's good enough to do that. We need a franchise guy, and that will be the thing that gives the Raiders the appeal. We start getting more favorable calls, all these things when you have a franchise quarterback that people like. So yeah, this football stuff is more than just best team. the best team will make it out. No, you kind of got to be a little political. So you got to get a person that people really like, but he's also talented. So you got to find that balance of people liking him and he's also talented. But yeah, man. That's all I gotta say. This was probably one of my longer videos, but it's an important video um for the Raiders and any team that's struggling to find their way in these NFL streets. But Keith Rader out, man.